My ideas for the city began maybe 4 or 5 years ago when Marin Alsop asked me to write the piece. And she wanted it to be about the city of Baltimore, but more generally about the American city. And I wasn't exactly sure how to approach the piece, but I thought since there would be a film that goes along with the piece, we could first show buildings, monuments, churches, spires, bridges, skylines, even details of architecture, which I thought would be very interesting. And the music would have a kind of gritty, kind of city-like, barbaric, rhythmic core to it. And I would walk around, I walked around Baltimore, I walked around New York, thinking about what that sound might be. And then eventually I thought the piece could zoom in and be more about the people. You know, groups of people doing various things, you know, going to work, on buses, going to baseball games, talking in the streets. I had written about a quarter of the piece when these events happened last April around the Freddie Gray death and the sentencing and the rioting that happened. And I realized at that point that this piece would need to be more than just an illustration, a kind of tour guide of Baltimore, but perhaps be also about the potential of healing and of mutual understanding. And in fact, there were public expressions in such a way following the rioting, and we've captured that in the music and in the film. The first idea that I had for the piece was percussive and a kind of savage drumming. And this is something that I actually have never done in a piece before. So I really had to work with some percussionists at the Peabody Institute who showed me some things about drums. And so the first thing you hear in the piece is 3 sets of tom-toms played in different parts of the stage to create a really kind of enveloping effect. And this kind of brutal nature, I would say, carries forth through the entire piece. In the second section of the piece, which is supposed to be about the people, a melody arises which is kind of uncertain ethnic origin, but it has a kind of indigenous feel, played by 3 oboes in unison, and music kind of swirls around it, and I think the music represents diversity and a kind of vibrant city life. And out of that music, an anthem, a kind of song arises, which was not something I planned, but it kind of emerges, hopefully very naturally, from this texture, and it's played by the strings, and then eventually it's deconstructed and played by the entire orchestra in a very different way. During the part of the film where we knew we needed to show images from the riots, the aftermath of the riots, and the violence that occurred in Baltimore last April, the music sort of takes a back seat, and it's very simple, just sustained tones passed around the orchestra while you see these images on the screen. And after that moment, the screen goes to black, and it really becomes about the orchestra, which builds sort of inexorably to a moment of real crisis. And then at a certain key moment, the film comes back and we show the aftermath of these events. And then after this kind of cataclysmic moment in the piece, the music becomes much more inviting, I guess, as we see images of the kind of expressions of mutual understanding and reaching across racial lines that we saw actually on the streets. There are images of the Baltimore Symphony playing on the street, of Marin Alsop's program called Orchids, where she works with inner city kids and introduces them to violin, cello, and et cetera. So I think the piece ends with a message of optimism.